Welcome to the June 11th meeting of the Board of Commissioners. I'm Joanne Burrell, and I'm the vice chair this year, and in the chairman's absence, I will be conducting the meeting today. And I'll call this meeting to order. And as is our custom, we start with a prayer and the pledge. And I would like to ask Pastor Brian Foster from Burnt Hickory Baptist Church to come up and lead us in a prayer. And our own Officer Ott will be leading us in the pledge. For those able and willing, please stand.
Father God, we thank you that we live in a country that we can have the freedoms that we have here. Father, we pray right now that you would just guide this meeting. We pray for our Board of Commissioners. Thank you for allowing them to serve. Father, would you give them eyes to see as you see? Would you give them ears to hear as you would hear? And would you give them the wisdom and the courage to make the decisions as you would lead and guide them to? Father, we thank you that we get to be a part of all of this and have freedom of speech. So bless this time today. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Pastor and Officer Ott. Thank you. Okay, we have a few presentations today, and we'd like to start with Commissioner Gambrell. I think she has the first two.
Thank you. Okay. I would like to call up the Dominion Christian Knights baseball team to join me.
Woohoo!
Under head coach Brian Nelson and assistant coach Chris Schmidt, the Dominion Christian Knights captured the Georgia Independent School Association's Class AAA state championship by winning 2-1 against the John Millage Trojans. This is Dominion's first baseball state championship in school history. They were state runner-ups in 2009. Congratulations on a season and a well-earned state title. Go Knights.
Woohoo!
So I'd like to introduce head coach Brian Nelson, Coach Chris Schmidt, and then now you guys are going to get me. This is Blake, Tristan, Chris, Cayman, Logan, and Brody. Thank you, guys.
You have the next one too, or elder abuse? Pardon?
Do you know who's coming up?
Kimberly. Oh, yeah. Now, Commissioner Gambrell, if the Elder Abuse Task Force would come up, she's going to recognize Elder Abuse Awareness Day.
You want to come down here? Great. Hi, thank you. Great. On behalf of the Cobb County Board of Commissioners, I'd like to deliver this proclamation. Whereas Do Something Good for Your Neighbor Day is a nationwide effort observed in hundreds of cities to celebrate the meaning of spreading neighborly.
That's not us.
It's fine. Houston, we have a problem. They gave me the wrong proclamation.
I'm happy to talk about it.
I'll let you talk about it.
Yeah. So I'm sure that's a great proclamation and cause as well. But my name is Jason Marbett. I'm the chair of the Cobb Elder Abuse Task Force, and all these folks are on the task force. I won't try and go through and name everybody. June 15th is actually Elder Abuse Awareness Day. It's a national day, and world, actually, you are right. And we appreciate the commissioners giving us the opportunity to talk a little bit about elder abuse. And I will tell you and share some statistics with you. In Cobb County, since October of 2017, there have been 293 substantiated cases of abuse, neglect, and exploitation. That's just our county. Some statistics show that for every one case, there are 23 that are not reported. And so we appreciate this opportunity to talk to you, to raise awareness, to let you guys know that this problem is out there, that it's on the rise, and thank you very much. Dr. Gibson, do you want to?
Yes, I think that might be the right one.
Got the right one. There you go. You got it. Thank you.
No, is it the right one? Yeah. Okay.
For the right one.
Okay. So on behalf of the Board of Commissioners, we'd like to deliver this proclamation. Whereas our older adults are valued members of society, they deserve to live safely, with dignity, and independently as possible. Our older adults also deserve the support systems they need to enjoy life, and whereas elder abuse is most often defined as an act that harms an older adult or developmentally disabled adult or jeopardizes his or her health or welfare. It is any knowing, intentional, or neglect act by a family member, caregiver, or other person that causes harm or serious risk of harm to a vulnerable adult. And whereas elder abuse may be physical abuse, sexual abuse, neglect, exploitation, emotional abuse, abandonment, or self-neglect. Some warning signs are bruises, broken bones and burns, unexplained withdrawal from normal activities, and unusual depression and anxiety, sudden changes in financial situations, bed sores, poor hygiene, and unusual weight loss, strained or tense relationships, and fear of family members, friends, or caregivers. And whereas it is important to be alert because elders often suffer in silence. Noticeable changes in an older adult's personality, appearance, or behavior should be questioned to find out what caused this change. Now, therefore, we, the Cobb County Board of Commissioners, do hereby proclaim June 15, 2019 as Elder Abuse Awareness Day in Cobb County and encourage everyone to commit to building a safer community for our older and developmentally disabled residents. This on this 11th day of June 2019.
Now our county manager and HR staff will present the Martha Logue Award.
Good morning. Thank you, Madam Vice. This morning, we are going to be presenting the 2019 Martha Logue Excellence and Leadership Award. This is an award that is provided or given to a member of the staff that is also a member of the Excel Alumni Association. A long time ago in 1992, I graduated Excel, and as a member, it's my honor to participate in who we select to be awarded and just to participate in the presentation. I'm going to ask for our Excel our alumni co-presidents, Roxanne and Robbie Edwards to come up, please, along with Keith Mazonki, who served as the chair this year of our awards committee. And I'm going to also invite Sarah Logue, who is Martha's daughter and works in our property management department, to come down. And we're going to introduce the nominees and ultimately present the award.
On behalf of the Excel Alumni Board, first of all, I would like to thank the chairman, the commissioners, and the county manager for all your support for our Excel program. Now, before we meet the nominees, I would like to tell you a little bit about Martha Logue. Martha earned her degree in business from Kennesaw College at the time, now Kennesaw State University. And in 1983, she took the Certified Public Accounting exam, achieving the highest score on the test in the state of Georgia. In 1984, Martha joined Cobb County in the Internal Audit Department as a senior auditor and was quickly promoted to the position of Project Accounting Supervisor as a result of her talents and leadership. Martha's contributions played an important part in Cobb County's transportation road improvement study that led to the passage of the county's first road improvement sales tax in 1985. Following up on these efforts, she developed Cobb County's first comprehensive annual financial report, an accomplishment earning the honor of Government Finance Officers Association Award for excellence in financial reporting. Her outstanding communication skills matched her ability to foster a team environment, which helped her to excel in her role as the county's assistant comptroller. Her leadership skills, problem-solving abilities, management style, professionalism, commitment to excellence, and high ethical standards provide the basis for this prestigious Martha Logue Excellence in Leadership Award.
All right, my name is Keith Mazunki, and I was the chairperson for this year's award committee. And I want to introduce Sarah Logue here as well. This is Martha's daughter. She works in property management for us and does a fantastic job. And we're honored to have you here today, so thank you for coming out. So as I introduce the nominees, please walk forward. And we have a few that couldn't make it today, so my apologies if couldn't make it. We had one on vacation, one an important meeting. But the first nominee is Tom Bills from our Parks Department. Tom, come on down. Our second nominee, Carl Crumbly from Cobb Fire, and he was maybe going to be here. Doesn't look like it. All right, Carl Crumbly though. All right. Our third nominee from the water system, Alicia Giddens. Aaliyah Hawks from Human Resources. And last but not least, Carl Van Hagel from DOT Cobb Airport, who's on vacation today, so he couldn't make it. All right. So all of this year's nominees have proven to be dedicated employees in ensuring the smooth running of Cobb County government through excellent management, organization, and problem-solving skills. This is my third year in the committee. I just want to say for our nominees, this is one of the strongest groups we had, and for voting this year, it was extremely tough. So being nominated is a huge honor, so thank you and congratulations. So without further ado, I'll read you the bio of our winner for this year's award. She has served as Human Resources Assistant in Records Management for Human Resources for almost 10 years. In her role, she oversees HR's financial records, personnel records, runs employee data reports, and other HR systems. She accepts every assignment given to her without hesitation. She assumes the responsibilities and carries out every task until completion, such as system implementations, class and pay study, assisting with billing security, and most recently, assisting with our new parking deck transition. She has become a subject matter expert in many areas where staff inside and outside human resources can call on her for advice and direction. Her staff love working for her, and she is fair in leadership and support of them. Aaliyah has worked for Cobb County government for 17 years. Her dedication to HR and Cobb County is amazing. We are pleased to recognize Aaliyah Hawks with the 2019 Martha Logue Excellence in Leadership Award. Yeah, nominees get pictures too. Commissioners want to step up. Get a picture. Everybody, come on up.
No speech. We'll make her talk. We should make her talk.
Thank you, guys, and congratulations again.
Congratulations again and to all of our nominees and our winner of the day. Now we're going to have a public hearing regarding water, and if I could ask Steve McCullers to come up to the podium. We have unlimited number of speakers for the public hearing. So after you read we'll call the public hearing open and ask for if anyone's wishing to speak.
Thank you and good morning. We would request that you hold a public hearing for employment of consulting services where contract fees will likely exceed $100,000 for the South Cobb Influent Pump Station Recovery Project.
Okay, is there anyone wishing to speak with regard to this item only? Anyone wishing to speak on the South Cobb?
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, the public hearing is closed. Seeing and hearing none. Thank you, Steve. I think I'm going to call Ross up to do since we're on the topic of water, could I ask Ross Cavett to come up and give our audience a public announcement that's kind of critical this morning? Thank you.
Thank you. We're still waiting for more information, but as many people in the Vinings area, Mableton, some parts of Smyrna and Austell, they lost water pressure this morning. It was due to a break in a Cobb County Marietta Water Authority line off Manor Road. And the water authorities, after doing some consulting with the EPD, we're going to issue a boil water advisory for that area. Still working on getting an exact map on who is affected. But the bottom line is if you did lose water pressure this morning, you're going to be asked to boil your water until further notice, and more testing's underway even as we speak.
Okay, and as soon as that information is obtained, we will put that on the county website.
Yep, exactly, yep.
And a
We'll
map.
have a banner on our website with information. We'll also be posting it on social media for those affected. But again, if you lost water pressure this morning, you're now under a boil water advisory.
Thank you, Ross.
Sure.
Excuse me, Ross. Will somebody be sending an email out through our communications line? And sometimes communications sends something through Nextdoor to different communities.
Yeah, we've already been using Nextdoor, and we'll pump out emails to the commission districts that are affected.
Yeah, thank you, I
All right,
appreciate it.
sure.
Thank you. Okay, before we get into public comment, we are going to be moving item number 28, addressing the TANs, to regular agenda under the Finance tab, and that is item number 28 on consent. We will be moving to regular agenda under the Finance tab, if you're here for that. Okay, we have, how many speakers signed up, Ms.
You have
Nance?
12 speakers signed up.
12, okay. And how many are, because the issue that most of the folks are here for with the signs, we need to hear them first because we will be discussing that case before the final public comment at the end of the meeting.
It appears that you have 5 signed up for that topic.
Okay. Well, what, do y'all want to just move everybody up, all 12 up to the front? Lisa, you in agreement with that? Okay. We'll just call all 12, so you can start with the first.
First speaker is David Birkenbein.
And if I can remind you to please state your name and what area you live in.
David Birkenbein, Mapleton, Georgia, District 4, outdoor burning. We just keep hammering at it because we don't want to enforce this thing. It's I've been talking since 2015, but the law and ordinance code is supposed to be just, fair, and moral. The dictates of the collective will overrides the entire Article 7 outdoor burning, and that's it right there, what it intends to promote. It overrides it because of their interpretation. We don't have we do not have a county code or a fire department code. We have justice and injustice. And it tells you in this article right here that the code shall be controlling. The code ain't controlling. The code is whatever interpretation everybody wants to give it. Article 7 is our law for all citizens. It tells you outdoor burning, and the biggest thing is outdoor burning, can we maintain a fire? There is no such thing as clean wood. 54-114 protects all citizens in Cobb County, unincorporated, from harm from annoying smoke and odors and the people with health problems. (54-113) doesn't help anybody. 54-113 are suggestions from the state that the state has restrictions on the 54 county burning. Now, these are the ones that are legal. It doesn't make them solid. It doesn't make them authorized here in the county. If anybody in this 113 starts a fire and it affects me, affects you, it affects anybody, they can call the fire department and the fire department should put it out. Why? Because the code says you do. So why do we have prohibitions? I don't know. Why do we have prohibitions? Can anybody answer that? It just confuses me. We have prohibitions, we have exceptions, we have restrictions, and we conglomerate it all into one is whatever I want to do, whatever I say it is, because I am in control. I run what is considered to be hurting you, not hurting you. I'm the one that's going to come out and say, that's legal because it says so. So why do we have prohibitions? And again, like ban, on one meeting we had a couple years ago, when a commissioner asked about ban, he said ban. Well, what does ban mean? What does ban mean? What does prohibitions mean? I mean, really? Y'all haven't looked at this and y'all can't see that you even have violations. They tell you if you violate such and such, you're going to be cited. If you keep on violating it, you're going to be fined. If you keep on after that, you're going to go to jail and be fined. But not in Cobb County. In medical burn bans, they say restricted burn areas. They're not restricted burn areas. People filled out a medical application. People had the doctor sign it. The fire marshal signed it. The fire chief signed it. They made up the suggestions come to the board. None of y'all were here back then, but y'all don't want to enforce it. Y'all are gullible. Let me put gullible because of somebody in a position that this is the way it wants to be, and it's all the little ducklings in a row, whichever's in there, and y'all don't use discernment when it comes to what people are telling you. We were told one time in one meeting too by a county commissioner, if it wasn't for the people in the county coming up here speaking, because we can't be in all places, we trust in them. We listen to them. And the chairman said, David, in that one couple months ago, we hear you. I don't want you to hear me. I want you to listen to me. That's like going out driving on old people. Well, I looked and the car hit me. Well, you looked, but you didn't do the one important thing. You didn't see. and this is our problem. You're not seeing. Thank you.
Thank you, David.
The next speaker is Debbie Nukowski.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Burrell, for for inviting me up, for come up here. And thank you for the email. You have replied to me, and I do appreciate it. But I wanted to come today so I can take you on a walk down Barnes Mill. So we do have sidewalks. My issue is we have very limited sidewalks on Barnes Mill. We have them starting at Roswell Road and they end at Woodmont. So when you're walking and you get to the subdivision of Woodmont, it ends. So now you have to either walk in the street to get around it, and then you're in the grass. So this becomes a problem when you're walking, because as you're going, you're seeing you're very close to the road. You don't have much place to walk, and you're walking in a very precarious area. It's a lot of rocks and things like that, and then there's a blind spot. So if a car comes around the corner, they could hit you if you see that there's problems walking, if it's really muddy and you decide to walk in the street, you're dead. So as you can see, it's very hard to go and walk up this hill. Now, when you come up to Stone Oak Point, you can see a path has been created by people who do walk on Barnes Mill, and it does have some areas that's safe. But then we start to continue going down the road, and as you can see, it is all grass, there's shrubs growing, you end up in the street, and it's very unsafe. Another issue on Barnes Mill, if you have children, the buses have to stop at your driveway to pick up your children because there's no sidewalks. And that means, and I always wondered why I always saw the bus stop stopping at almost every single house on my street, because there's no place for the children to go. And so as you can see, again, I'm back. Now, all of a sudden, there's, I think, a left or right turn lane, and you can walk in that, but then it ends. So then it starts up again, and it ends. So I never know. And so when I'm walking, as you can see, this white truck, he's on his phone, and I had to get off of the road because he crossed the white line. Of course, I had to quit taking pictures, so I had to think of my safety. And then when you're on the northwest side of Barnes Mill, you can't go anywhere. There's shrubs, it's just grass and gravel and rocks. And then if you continue, then you're hitting the area where I live, and you got all the mailboxes. So you're in the road because you have to constantly either be on the people's neighbors, on their block, on their grass, or in the road. So this area is the bus stop that's on Barnes Mill. And I've seen the children, they all get dumped off at this spot, and then they gotta walk down the hill to the subdivisions, there's Soaring Way and so forth. And just to add a note that what I talked about before. So thank you very much. I appreciate you listening. I understand we've been in conversation, and I appreciate your response, but I just wanted you to see what actually is on Barnes Mill and what is really making all of us very nervous when we go out walking. My neighbor lost her dog because the dog got loose. He was on his leash, and it was a very narrow area, and the dog decided to walk in the street, and the car came around and hit the dog and killed it. So we haven't had any fatality with children or people because we stay off the road. We don't go on Barnes Mill, but it would be nice that we would be able to walk in our neighborhoods and go and see our neighbors, or walk down to Roswell Road and go to the grocery store, which I see all the time. Or also, I see people walking to the bus to get to Roswell because we have an apartment complex up at the top of the hill. So thank you for your time. I really appreciate you listening, and I appreciate you looking at my photos. And I'm hoping that we can keep the dialogue open, and that we can definitely look at next year to put this on the budget. And I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Debbie.
Thank you.
Can you email me the pictures, the
Sure.
presentation?
No
Because
problem.
that'll help DOT. to
Okay, thank you very
determine
much.
What area we need
Thank
to
you.
look at. Thank you. Very, very good presentation.
The next speaker is Robin Moody.
Hello, my name is Robin Moody of East Cobb, Sewell Manor. This is the East Cobb community that is located at the 120 Loop and Lower Roswell Road across from the Quick Trip. Trayton Homes is proposing where there are only 5 homes and 3 businesses, 52 units. That's 37 townhomes and 15 houses. That's going to be an approximately 50% increase in homes, cars, water, trash service, and fire and police, and only 10% of the land, and that's going to double the school buses. Traffic is a grave concern for us. We've already had a death last year on Lower Roswell. Over 70% of our neighborhood uses the Indian Trail exit. I personally, in my 16 years, can count on one hand the number of times I've ever tried to turn left out of my neighborhood because it is dangerous. Traffic backs up on on Lower Roswell all the way to the Sewell Manor Library in the mornings, the evenings, the weekends. And according to the GDOT, there's over 18,000 cars that drive down Lower Roswell every single day. We're playing chicken out there, trying to come out with the residents of East Cobb at Lower Roswell and the QT. And the turning lane coming off the loop into our East Cobb neighborhood is already at capacity and backs up onto the loop. That's dangerous. Our concern is the lack of sidewalks in our neighborhood already. Our children wait for the bus on the street, and people walk their dogs. And when people try to sit there and cut through our neighborhood and realize they can't come out, let me just say they don't drive slow trying to get back out of our neighborhood. Can you even imagine 2 sets of school buses, City of Marietta and Cobb County, trying to meet at the 4-way stop? We feel this plan is reckless. East Cobb residents from 30 surrounding neighborhoods support us. I'm going to go ahead and read those to you. I have over 16 pages of a petition here signed by them. Barnes Mill Lake, Beverly Hills, Carriage Green, East Valley Estates, Freywood Estates, Gant Quarters, Hamby Acres, Hamilton Place, Hyde Park, Indian Hills, Lower Roswell Road, Magnolia South, Meadow Grove, Milford, Old Sewell Road, Park Place, Pioneer Woods, Red Oak Park, Sedalia Park, Sentinel Chase, Sewell Manor, Sibley Forest, Spring Creek, Stratford, Summit at Piedmont, Terrell Mill Estates, Tuxedo Estates, Weatherstone, Stone Oak Point, and Smithstone. We bought into the East Cobb community specifically because of low density. And today we are all wearing yellow and have our yellow signs as a sense of unity of community and as a symbol of hope. We are not against responsible development that follows the future land use plans from the county. And we ask that Cobb County keep the letter of objection in place today and to pass a resolution today to affirm the objection to annexation. And we ask you to save East Cobb. Thank you.
Thank you, Robin. The next speaker is Tom Jordan.
Good morning. I'm Tom Jordan. I live off of Lower Roswell between the 120 Loop and Terrell Mill Park, and I'm here to address this development issue. It is flat out, and let me just say, I'm a lawyer, and I'll even admit it, but it's flat out irresponsible to put this type of development at this location. You're asking for a pedestrian fatality. I don't know how many people have been killed, pedestrians killed, trying to cross South Cobb Drive. You're going to create a similar situation on Lower Roswell if this development goes forward. And when it does happen, the landowner is going to get sued, the developer is going to get sued, and whatever government agency allowed this to happen is going to get sued because you knew or you reasonably should have known this would unreasonably and irresponsibly create a dangerous situation. And I'll yield the rest of my time to the next citizen. All right, go ahead. Go ahead. You're going to have people crossing Lower Roswell Road between that development and the Quick Trip. Even if you do put a pedestrian crosswalk up at that corner, they're just not going to walk up to use it. They're going to cross it. They're going to cross the middle of the street. And I'll yield the rest of my time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jordan. The next speaker is James Rossich.
for the record. My name is James Rossick. I live at 2141 Sedalia Court. That's in the unincorporated county. I'd like to read a statement that's put out by a publication I found by the Georgia Association of County Commissioners. The county is a member of this organization, and I believe you pay $30,000 a year to be a member. Annexation allows natural city growth, and when done in cooperation with county officials, can lead to healthy economic progress and further community cohesion. However, the annexation power is abused when it is exercised primarily to increase city revenues, and when those impacted by an annexation decision are ignored, be they county officials, representatives of surrounding jurisdictions, or city and unincorporated residents. Concerning the state legislature's intent for annexation, the process was designed for city-county cooperation under a system of local government where there is a commitment to transparency, citizen participation, and professional standards. Based on this proposed annexation, we are not convinced that these conditions exist in Cobb County. Rather, this is a hostile takeover approach to annexation by an absentee landlord, the city of Marietta. Look at how they have neglected their annexed territory east of I-75 for years, and it's only going to get worse. We submit the following as proof of this abuse of power, which now is actually the city's right due to the county's gross negligence in handling the annexation objection. Number one, an incomplete application was accepted which appears to show a double standard and blatant disregard for local codes and policies. The city's acceptance of a conceptual site plan is nothing more than an empty shell that can and most likely will be altered after annexation occurs. 15 variances. Have a look at the graphic, please. Demonstration of a bona fide hardship are nothing more than special favors for the developer that accrue no benefit to the public and in fact harms the public interest. I would like to point out one in particular. You just saw the video. They have asked for a variance to not have acceleration or deceleration lanes to this development. This is a spot annexation that shows disregard for the city's and county's comprehensive plans, which are a guide to future land use, not something that's supposed to sit on a shelf. No traffic study or coordination with either Cobb DOT or GDOT has occurred at this highly congested intersection with, again, over 18,000 vehicle trips per day. There has been no stakeholder involvement. The current site plan is the result of single-party negotiations without staff, jurisdictional agencies, or stakeholder input. This lacks transparency and undermines the public's trust. The city is taking advantage of the county's error, again, which is gross negligence on the part of the county. This has resulted now in a turf war which harms all of the citizens of Cobb County. As such, we're still unconvinced that the county elected officials and staff even know how to follow proper procedures in filing an annexation objection. For example, it was pulled from the April 23rd agenda, and it went to an executive session. We will not know the results of that because that was a closed-door session. However, it is clear that there was certainly some type of misunderstanding between county staff and the county commission. Also, distributed in your packages, you will see a May the 7th letter from the Georgia Department of Community Affairs to county staff explaining the process and the failure, starting with the letter of intent, which should have never occurred. Hopefully, you will get it right next time. But going forward, in regards to this particular case, which is a missed opportunity, we ask that you make it right by passing the resolution, affirming the original objection, and calling for the city to drop their annexation request. And finally, understand that we reserve our right to a constitutional challenge.
Thank you, James. The next speaker is Teresa Gannat.
Thank you, Commissioners. Thank you for everyone who's attending here today. Good morning. My name is Teresa Gannat, and I am speaking today on behalf of my mom, Sheila. Mom, good to see you. See you back at home. My sister, Kathy, brother Daniel, who lives at 283 Indian Trail, we at 320, and the 14 other families who've lived at Sewell Manor for nearly 50 years. I was born at 211 Worthington Drive. I learned to read at 256 Indian Trail and now reside with the Chief Operating Officer of 320. I'm the Chief Encouragement Officer. So that bill that was passed this morning, that resolution that y'all passed this morning for June 15th, thank you very much for doing that. Our worldview has been different in the last few years. for her friends. 30 neighborhoods are represented here today, many of whom who could not be here are watching online, so we thank you for doing that. Working class people in East Cobb who are standing alongside us in this battle. I'm going to read from here on out, so forgive me for not making eye contact for sake of time. We're wearing yellow as a symbol of hope. Thank you, Commissioner Ott, for your tie, for supporting the unity of community, and your tireless efforts on our behalf in this situation does not go unnoticed. Thank you. We are asking you to find a way now, Commissioners, to use the future land use map for Cobb County as a standard, make this right, and stop the hostile takeover of East Cobb by the City of Marietta, Mr. Boyd, and Trayton Homes. Our community is probably the closest thing in Cobb County you will find to Mayberry. We wave at strangers, we know our neighbors, and yet we still respect one another's privacy, and cars still go below slow around children, just like they did when I was growing up. My parents told us we could ride anywhere inside the neighborhood, but not onto Lower Roswell Road because the rules were different out there. We're finding the same is true today. The rules are different out there. Today, I'm happy not only to protect these principles, but to be able to preserve them and to plead with you to do the same on behalf of all of East Cobb and all of Cobb County. Our families, our children, our grandchildren who have lived here nearly 5 decades, 67 years, Mr. Minter, who's watching on TV, keep it up. And on behalf of these 30 neighborhoods, we ask you to find a way to make it right and to save East Cobb. The county dropped the ball. We understand it's wrong, but we expect you to find a way to fulfill your oath of office to the community today and make it right. The fact that Mr. Boyd, by proxy, the developers, knowingly purchased properties inside our neighborhood and destroyed the homes in an attempt to bully both us and you to make this development is reprehensible. If it's allowed to happen here, the precedent will be set. It will be coming soon to a neighborhood near you. As you well know, the fact is the current proposal is well over Cobb's density and the Future Land Use Act. It does not fit the existing community whatsoever, and our initial contact with the Cobb School Board has brought both disgust and dismay as well. It is certainly not in the best interest of anyone in Cobb County but the individuals who will gain personal gain and profit off this deal. Even the Marietta Planning Commission voted against this proposal 5-2. This proposal is full of special favors disguised as variances. The developers know Cobb County would never allow this. The only reason they are annexing is to get the density. It's obvious. None is in the best interest of these 30 supporting neighborhoods, and especially the children who will affect for the next 5 decades. The longer we are in this process, I can promise you, the more we uncover, and it is not pretty. Therefore, in order to preserve the entire body of East Cobb neighborhoods represented here today for future families like the young neighbors here with us and their children, sometimes real progress means preserving what is already in existence. Sometimes real progress is doing what's good and right and true and what has worked in the past. Sometimes real progress is found in having the courage not to change. We would love to see development on these lots, which align with the current future land use of Cobb County and on behalf of these 30 neighborhoods, and to reassure your constituents who are here, who are watching on TV, we ask you today to keep the letter of objection in place, to pass a resolution today. You can do that today. Pass a resolution affirming the objection of the annexation and preserving the way of life for these 30 communities and more. We got 2 today that are fighting to protect this way of life. Today, we also respectfully ask and reserve the right to a constitutional challenge, and we resolve to keep fighting until this is made right. Thank you. May God give wisdom to the council. And thank you, Cobb County Board of Commissioners, for your tireless efforts. I know this is your part-time job, and we commend you for the full-time work that you put into this part-time servant's heart that you have. Thank you. But together, today, we are asking you to save East Cobb.
Thank you, Teresa.
The next speaker is Giovanni Serrano.
Good morning, Board of Commissioners. My name is Giovanni. I live in 720 Franklin Gateway, Marietta, Georgia, and I'm here to urge you to defund the 287G program. This program has deteriorated the trust between law enforcement and the immigrant community. In the last meeting, we have law enforcement, and the first responders come to speak to raise, funds towards, increasing more law enforcement, more first responders. However, one of the things that I'm saying, yes, we can increase the funds, but at the same time, for us, the immigrant community, We want more public safety, but at the same time, we want public safety that we can trust, and it's not going to be there to criminalize us. And the 287G program does that. It allows police officers to racial profile us. Not only that, but has breaking many families apart. So that's why we do believe in public safety. However, we want to have public safety that we can be secure with, you know? So you're also here today, I'm just here for us to stand against the 287G program due to the fact that many of the immigrant community fear to report any type of crime being committed against them, due to the fact that they fear being criminalized for reporting a crime and being asked about their legal status, rather than actually the police officer focusing on the crime and the person that committed crimes against them. That's why we have so many records that say that have not been reported of crimes being reported because the immigrant community fears to report even a crime committed against them. That's one of the reasons how the 287G program affects our communities. As I say, it affects children. It also affects children in school because they fear not being able to come home to see to their parents. So that's one of the ways that the 287G program has affected our youth, the future, our generations. They cannot focus on school because they are afraid, they're nervous that once they go back home, there will be no parents. They might go to a foster home because there's nobody to take care of them, no family members. So in that way, not only impacts the future of our Cobb County, it breaks families apart. And not only that, but we do not, as an immigrant community, we do not trust our law enforcement because they work with the 287G program. So it's one of the reasons why we're here, for you guys to defund the 287G program. We know that the sheriff isn't an elected official, but also the board of commissioners were elected by the community to represent us. So in that way, we're saying for you guys to stand in the right side of history, may stand against a suppressive regime by the Sheriff Warren, and let's put an end to the 287G program. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. The next speaker is Ginger White.
Good morning. My name is Ginger White, and I'm a resident of Cobb County and a member of Emerson Unitarian Universalist Congregation. And I feel morally obligated to ask you to discontinue Cobb County's participation in the 287G program. Please note, I'm not asking anyone to protect criminals. We need safe communities. However, the 287G program helps the federal government to detain taxpayers who contribute deeply to our economy. This costs our country as well as our county. According to ICE's own 2018 budget, it costs $133.99 per day to maintain one adult detention bed. The true cost may be closer to $200 a day. Some people make money off of these detentions, but taxpayers pay all of that. Private detention centers make money by cutting costs and neglecting or abusing constitutional rights. In Georgia, 4 immigrants have died in immigration detention centers since 2017, 2 by suicide. Excessive detentions cost Cobb County and our communities. When tax-paying workers are separated from their families by federal outreach, Cobb families are forced into crisis, which often strain our social networks and county social services. 287G turns insufficiently trained Cobb deputies into immigration officers, encourages racial profiling, and sharply increases mistrust in police. When people don't trust police, they're less likely to report crimes, any crimes. Fearful communities can become crime centers. Again, I'm not asking you to protect criminals. However, we do not need to help ICE to ruthlessly rupture families which contribute economically to Cobb County. Immigration reform is important. We all can and should support sustainable immigration reform while helping Cobb County and to diversify its cultural and economic foundations, and helping Metro Atlanta to build its sustainable future of national and global economic leadership. I'm asking you to lead our way by ending 287G in Cobb County. And also, I'm a member, a resident of the area that would be affected by annexation, and I definitely support your cause as well. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, ma'am.
The next speaker is Pat Burns.
Good morning. My name is Pat Burns. I live in Smyrna. This morning, 287G continues to be an ugly, dehumanizing, and myopic personal tool used by Cobb County that intimidates residents and breaks up families. In some jurisdictions, only convicted felons are deported. In Cobb County, all citizens, non-citizens are at risk. Remember, living here without documentation or overstaying your visa is not a felony, it is a misdemeanor. Probably unknown to you is an underground network of caring advocates willing to take in American and or undocumented children whose parents have been deported. Because there is no accountability or access to records, we have no idea how many of our Cobb County mothers, fathers, sons, daughters have been torn away from each other. Nor do we know the number of children that are left with one parent or no parents. Families today are cosmopolitan. A husband may be American, but not the wife or brother or daughter. Some children are born in the States while others are born elsewhere. A few years ago, before I retired as a registered nurse, a mother told me that she made a regrettable decision by wanting to be near her own mother for the birth of her last child. She traveled to Mexico to be with her mother. A mother's love and natural instincts now have jeopardized the future of her youngest child. Not only divisive, 287G is expensive. As we prepare for budget time, do you know what 287G costs? Who is willing to shed some light on it along with other aspects of the sheriff's budget, especially with jail conditions being questioned and an embarrassingly expensive lawsuit having recently been settled? So again today I stand up for my friends. Many times people most burdened and most impacted are unable to make their own argument for their own humanity. It's intimidating for me to ask you to be open-minded, to ask you to search your souls, but to expect my friends Leonora or Kim Thuy to participate in public comments and ask them to reevaluate 287G is beyond the pale. Therefore, I do it for them.
Thank you, Ms. Burns.
The next speaker is Kevin Joshin.
Hello, good morning. My name is Kevin Huachin. Dear Board of Commissioners, I live on Forest Summit Drive, 368 in East Marietta. I am here to ask that this board not approve the budget to continue the program 287G. The policy harms and separates families by allowing collaboration between ICE and the police and empowering the process for deportation. According to Syracuse University online database, Cobb County has arrested over 9,000 people under the 287G policy since its inception in the county. To understand the impact of arrests for ICE in Cobb County, let us remember that it is not just 9,000 individuals affected by this policy, but also thousands of families, an entire community. From 2006 to 2013, over 33,000 parents were deported in Georgia, affecting over 77,000 children. This is something Cobb County has been a part of. I draw this previous data from a report called Prejudice, Policy, and Public Safety, published by GLAR, the Georgia Latino Alliance for Human Rights, the ACLU, and other organizations. We are at half of the year, and the policy has devastated the lives of over 150 families already. We cannot be a state that devastates the lives of children, the lives of families, and communities. We do not have to venture to border states to see the effects of family separation. Because we can see the effect here in our community in Cobb County. 287G is a program that fills the entire community with fear because of family separation. The program devastates our loved ones and valuable members of Cobb County. Defund 287G and ends family separation. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
The next speaker is Hill Wright.
Hello, my name is Hill Wright. I'm just an ordinary citizen. I want to talk to you today about the development of Lower Roswell Road. When I first heard about this, I thought, well, this is, some landowner owns this property, he wants to develop it. What's the big deal? I mean, it's his right to develop it. But as I began to hear more and more about this, I began to realize, what exactly was going on. This is an investor from outside of the county that's come in and started buying up part of a neighborhood, ripping up the homes, demolishing them, tearing them down, and wants to replace it with something that's just not good for the county. To do this, the investor has to violate the county's land use. He has to be granted lots of special favors. And the only thing that's standing in the way of Marietta handing out these special favors to the developer is annexation. If this is annexed, then it's in Marietta's hands to do as they see fit. That's not going to be good for Cobb County citizens. Unfortunately, Cobb County had a chance to procedurally stop this by filing an objection with the Department of Community Affairs. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. The objection was not filed properly, so basically no objection exists, no procedures. The county has a letter of objection, as you all know, and it's all been talked about today. Because that's the only thing standing in the way of this annexation. A lot of people in the community, I can tell you, have learned about this development, proposed development, and are very upset and angry that it's gotten this far. Now, some of these people, when they hear that the county had an opportunity to stop this and they didn't, they're extremely angry, and they're looking to you, the commissioners, for answers, because they expected you, the commissioners, to protect us. Perhaps it was a staff issue, but the buck needs to stop with the commissioners. You are the people that we elect protect us, not the staff. Some have contacted me. In fact, I've had about 30 people contact me. Some have even suggested a recall election. But for Commissioner Ott and Commissioner Boyce, I've told them that Commissioner Ott in the past has served us well. He's done a lot of good things for us. He says he's got a plan to fix this, that he's working on it, and that we need to put our faith in Commissioner Ott, that he's going to follow through and do the right thing. I'm one voice in the community, but there are many voices in the community that can't be here today that are asking for a reassurance that you're going to keep the letter of objection in place. And we're asking that you pass a resolution today reaffirming that letter of objection. We're also asking that you tell Marietta that handing out special favors to rip up homes in unincorporated Cobb is just not acceptable to the citizens of East Cobb. We're also asking that the board do what it takes to save East Cobb. Thank you.
The final speaker is Donald Barth.
Donald Barth, City of Marietta. I am a hybrid. I am like the stepchild here. I found out from Mr. Ott that I am doubly covered. I thought Dan Quinn was cool. Now I've got two police watching my back. I went before the city 2 months ago and told them I don't have to carry a gun in the city of Marietta. I have the right, but I don't have to carry it. Now I know I really don't have to because I've got them too. Now, the cityhood is a great thing. So that's why I'm speaking transparent here. I believe in annexation. I wish the city would concentrate from the loop in. Last month, City Hall, I went in with the Monopoly board. I held it up. What do they see? A square. Only the square. What did I see? The loop. The loop is the future of Cobb County. The loop, thinking of a Monopoly board, any growth around the loop, there'll be a tram around there. I'll be long gone. Most of y'all will be gone. But at some point in time, we could have a bike lane going around there. We can have growth going around there. City of Marietta is jumping around now. We have land way up there off of Sandy Plains. I don't know why, but we do. We have land down by Delk Road. I don't know why, but we do. The city is in charge of that. They were elected. They do that. Now on to the transparency here. I look at this lower Roswell Road issue and I think, what? This is a round hole. And this is a big square peg. Somebody's trying to put it in a round hole. It's not fitting. Well, I didn't go to college. You're either going to get a bigger round hole or a smaller peg. You want to develop that, you reduce it to it fits in its proper place. The county has the right to watch that development. I don't know what this transparency coming from you in the city is, but I do know Daddy said no. You being Daddy. Well, we'll run to Mommy. What's Mommy say? Well, I was at a couple of meetings and every time we get there, it's tabled. Why? Somebody's not being transparent. So in the end, if you will stick to your guns, when you say mediate, here it is, black and white. We're not negotiating, we're mediating. Here it is. Now, if the city wants to take that property, offer them something inside the loop. Take that back. We'll get that later. I'm sorry, but growth is coming. Anybody that moved up here, I came from the city of Atlanta 40 years ago. Growth is here. The Braves corridor proves it all. Yay, Tim Lee. I'm not going to be the best stepchild they ever had, but there are reasons growth is good. Now, use your common sense, use the powers of the elected officials, and let's get together with Marietta and say, this developer can't build here unless he gets a bigger round hole or a smaller square peg. Common sense. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. That's all. Okay, that concludes our public comment, and now we'll move to consent agenda. And just a reminder that item number 28 is being pulled from consent and moved to regular under the Finance tab. And the consent items will scroll on the screen for those at home and here today. Okay, I would like to make a motion to approve consent agenda items.
Second.
Call, any discussion? Call question? Motion carries 4-0 with the chairman absent. Okay, now we'll move to regular. Dirty. Okay, Mr. Hozak?
Good morning, Vice Chair and Commissioners. Our first regular item this morning is to brief the Board of Commissioners on the ongoing land use and annexation dispute that we've discussed this morning or heard a public comment about this morning. Wanted to give the board some brief background as we move towards this briefing. On January 2nd of this year, the county did receive a letter from the Marietta City Council and Clerk that contained a proposed annexation and rezoning proposal for the property that's located at the corner of the South 120 Loop and Lower Roswell Road. The county did indeed respond twice. First was with a notice of intent to object. It was dated January 10th, 2019. It was signed by all 5 commissioners. And then in follow-up on February 1st, 2019, there was a notice of objection that was signed by 3 of the commissioners. Both of the letters were prepared in a similar format to all of our letters and correspondence that we have in accordance with our intergovernmental agreements with all of our cities per HB 489. We do believe that both letters clearly stated the county's intent to object to the rezoning and annexation proposal. And I should clarify, I do not believe that the notice of intent nor the intent or the intent to object or the actual objection can stop an annexation. I do think it has an effect on how the property could be developed and rezoned, but I did want to make sure for the record it was clarified. It could not stop the annexation. It simply gives us a seat at the table as it relates to the zoning and the development of the property. And we have specific land uses that we can object to. But I don't think that this particular process nor the letters that we sent would have been able to stop the city or prohibit them from proceeding with an annexation. I do want to clarify, there was indeed a mistake made by staff. There were some uncertainties by staff at the time as to whether or not there was a valid objection. Setting those aside, though, there was a mistake. There was a deadline that we failed to meet. And that has been, I guess, discussed, and there's been information provided to the board. I did want you to hear it from me that we indeed missed a deadline. We have since put some new procedures in place. We had intended to discuss with the board at the April work session what some of those particular procedures would be. We kind of ran out of time, so we were not able to do that. I did want to clarify, we did not discuss that in executive session with the board, however. But we did have an agenda to discuss it at the work session. Due to time constraints, it was removed from the agenda, was not discussed in executive session. That being said, we feel like the new safeguards that we put into place will assist us as it relates to avoiding a deadline, missing a deadline in the future. Prior to the creation of this agenda item, as the land use and annexation proposal was being deliberated, and I believe the gentleman that spoke before me was correct, it's been tabled a number of times by the city of Marietta. I reached out to the professional staff at the city of Marietta, stated our opinion, which is we believe we have a valid objection under the terms of HB 489 and the intergovernmental agreement that existed long before the advent of HB 2, which was circa 2007. In 2004, we did a comprehensive overhaul of our intergovernmental agreements with all 6 of our cities, specifically related to land use. We felt like we were very, very firm in our objection. In this particular instance, if it were 5 units to the acre or greater in a residential proposal, the county had a very definable right to object. We believe we exercised that right to object in both the letters that were sent in January and February. I believe that because of our assertions that we felt the objection was valid, the city professional staff had agreed to a mediation. We began setting up the potential dates for mediation. We selected a mediator, retired Superior Court judge, similar to how we have done mediations in the past, particularly as it relates to zoning disputes. As the project moved forward, there were discussions at the Marietta Council level, and I believe there was a specific motion made by the council that directed a process slightly different than what we had originally briefed the board on and negotiated with the professional staff. This would have been more of a public arbitration process that was more in line with HB 2. At the time, we found out that that was the city's intent. I had approached Commissioner Ott and advised Commissioner Ott after consulting with the county attorney that I thought we might need to come back to the full board and get approval, brief the board at the very least, because mediation, which is what we had originally agreed with the staff about, is much different than a binding arbitration process. So at my request, Commissioner Ott had agreed that we would come back to the board, brief the board as we are today, and seek direction as to how to proceed. I would add that it continues to be the staff's opinion, and I believe this is shared by the county attorney's office as well, that we indeed had a valid objection. We provided that to the city, and as the board contemplates future actions, we believe at the very, very least that the letter needs to remain in place because we do believe it's a valid objection to the rezoning proposal that was prepared as part of the process. And that would conclude my background remarks, Madam Vice.
Thank you, Rob. Let me address some of the issues that have come up, both at the community meeting, which I want to thank everyone that's here today, and I want to thank the 95 people that showed up on Monday night last week. The most important thing to point out is this is, although the issues that you brought up about you call them special favors, they're officially called variances, and the zoning and the densities and everything would probably cause some severe concern by the commissioners if it was a zoning hearing. It is not a zoning hearing in front of the county. And as presently proposed, it would never be a zoning hearing in front of the county. But I don't want to diminish or make it sound like the issues you brought up are not important. They are very important. And they are actually part of the basis, although by House Bill 2 and OCGA 3636-113 and House Bill 489, those are not necessarily things that the county could object on. They are important, and they are obviously things that would be discussed. The things that are in 113 specifically talk about proposed increase in density or change in land use, okay? And that was the issue that the original objection letter stated. And the concern of staff, because when they came and talked to me, they said, they reduced it down to 6.95. We're not sure that we have a valid argument. And now, since looking at it, as we said, more than 5 units to the acre on developed property and 4 units per acre on undeveloped property, as we talked about last Monday, would constitute a valid objection because it violates the terms of House Bill 49. So when Rob talks about the fact that the county believes we have a valid objection letter, that is why we believe we have a valid objection letter, because the proposal that is in front of the county, or the most recent change, is at 6.95 units to the acre, which is greater than the 5, which would be allowed by House Bill 49. So it's really important, although it was a lot of really good information, and James, provided great detail about the variances and the densities, and then we talked about the school buses. And just a note about the DOT discussion, that would happen if the city were to annex and then they were to move forward on the zoning. That is when the discussion would be with county DOT about those issues. But once again, it's not a zoning issue. The only thing in front of the county today and back in January and February was the annexation request by the city. And as you heard, the county followed the procedures initially when the county got the notice of intent to annex. All 5 commissioners signed the letter back to the city stating the county's objection. And as I mentioned to the folks last Monday, with both cities that are in District 2, both Smyrna and Marietta, a letter with all 5 commissioners' signatures is impactful because it sends a very strong message to the cities. And in both cases, in Marietta and Smyrna, it has been an indication to them that the board is serious about its objection. And so that was one of the reasons why I got all 5 commissioners to sign that first letter. Then the second letter, the actual objection letter, had the 3 commissioners' signatures, which is standard practice. But that did not change the county's objection to what was going on. It was just the next step. Now, there's a lot of discussion as to what should have happened, could have happened, didn't happen. But it's important to understand that all that would have changed if the board had voted on an agenda item, as we know, because that was the next step, that would have required or enabled either the city or the county to request mediation under House Bill 49 and state law, and barring a resolution under mediation, either party then requiring arbitration. And as we talked at the meeting on Monday night, both mediation and arbitration are about compromise. Mediation is compromise worked out between the 2 parties. Arbitration is compromise worked out by an arbitration board. Both sides have their starting positions. Okay, in mediation and arbitration, if it works out, the result is somewhere in the middle. Keeping in mind that those things that the county could object to were the density and the land use. A lot of the other concerns that you all have would not have been discussion points, especially in the arbitration. So the only thing that the county lost the opportunity to do was to force mediation or force arbitration. But as you heard, when the city requested mediation, the county agreed. And we all talked about, and that was actually the original reason for scheduling the meeting last Monday, was so that I could hear from the community prior to going to mediation. Well, in the interim, what happened? The city decided that they voted and the council required that the mediation would be open to the public. And the county was not opposed to hearing from the public. The problem is that's not how mediation is supposed to work. There are non-disclosure agreements that have to be signed as part of mediation. So what the city wanted the county to agree to was not mediation, it was more like arbitration. Arbitration is done by a panel. The panel has 1 member appointed by the county, 1 member appointed by the city, and more importantly, the 3rd member appointed by those 2 members that were appointed by the county and the city. It is not done by a single judge. So when the county manager and I talked about what was voted on by the council, so that's what the city was required to move forward on. That just wasn't going to work because there is no place in the law, there is no place in House Bill 49, any place in OCGA that talks about how that's supposed to work. And does the judge have binding ability? You have one person. So that's when this county said, we can't move forward on this without a discussion in front of the board. So now we get back to the letter of objection. As you heard, it's a valid letter of objection. And more importantly, and I'm going to read this quote from John Gargus's article last week. This is from the mayor, and I think this explains when you say that there's a lack of transparency, why does the city keep tabling it? Well, you've heard that there's a lot of discussion between the county and the city as to whether or not the letter is legal. And as Rob stated, an objection letter does not ultimately prevent the city from annexing. There are steps in the law that the city can move forward and annex property if they want. They may not be able to develop it for a year, but they can annex if the property owner has requested annexation. But more importantly, I think that if to kind of get an insight into what is going through the city's mind is just listen to this quote from the mayor. And so the article says, but speaking to the MDJ on Tuesday, Marietta Mayor Steve Tumlin said, as it comes to the annexation issue, quote, the ball is 100% in the county's court, unquote. As in the eyes of the city, the objection letter from the county stands. He goes on to say, to move forward, Tumlin said the county will have to retract its objection. More, he says, we have taken the strictest interpretation of 489, Tumlin said. Our position was, if we got a letter in due course from Cobb County government, no matter who signed it, as long as they were legitimate, we take it as an objection. So there is no doubt on the city's mind, the county's position, which is a clear indication of the community's position, that the county is in objection to the required annexation. The city clearly has stated, through the mayor, that they received the objection, they consider it valid, and they are not moving forward as long as the objection letter is in place. So it is my recommendation to the board that the objection letter remain in place. I know the community would like to see a resolution, but I mean, I think the mayor's comments make it very clear that the city gets it and that the objection, they view the objection as the county's position and that they're not going to move forward without the letter being retracted.
Okay. Anyone else have any comments? I would just like to say that I know we've missed the deadline in our letter of intent, and the objection from the 3 commissioners that signed are valid and in place, but would it hurt for us? Would it not make a statement if we did all 5 sign a resolution? Or is it too far gone at this point, or?
No, ma'am. Commissioner, the one thing in speaking with the county attorney's office, staff is certainly not opposed to a resolution either. There is a potential that the whole process might start over if a resolution is introduced. And
let me step in there.
Well,
The process cannot start over. Okay, by law, it cannot start over. The concern by the county attorney and myself and Rob is that the city will try to say that it's starting over. The law is very clear. The letters came to the county when they did. The county sent the first letter, the second letter, and as we mentioned, missed the vote. To take a vote now, and because you've heard from the community, the city's out there trying to continue to move this forward. And the concern is that a vote by the county, the city's liable to come and say, okay, well, now we can move on with the mediation and arbitration, which we cannot. The law is very clear. We have a valid objection letter. The city has said it's a valid objection letter, and it's just the thought was, in talking to the county attorney's office, that we need to let it stand.
and that the starting it, and a resolution could start the entire process over, which would be disadvantageous to the county, I believe. Commissioner Burrow.
You agree? Okay. So are you going to make a motion for any direction? Okay. Well, to leave it as is, or no? We
No,
don't- We don't need a.
Deborah, we don't need a motion, right? I mean, I think that public
Correct.
proceedings with the comments from the commissioners states it very clearly that the county's intent is to leave the objection letter in place because the city has received that message that the county is still objecting to the annexation as proposed, and that there are no changes in the county's position.
And I would reiterate the same that with this agenda item, I'm in support of continuing my objection to the annexation.
And I were not on the most recent letter, but we were on the letter of intent. And
Yes,
we
ma'am.
do, I still stand in objection as well.
Well, and I just kind of to further explain it, part of the concern was at the last minute, the change by the city, which was an official vote by the city on how they wanted to do the mediation. And so the concern is that opening any more doors for the city to come up with some other new way to approach it. I mean, the law is very clear. And what the city wanted to do with mediation, just, that's not mediation and it's not arbitration. And so by following the law as closely as the county can, we have a letter of objection in place. The city has acknowledged that we have a letter of objection and they said that the letter stands. And I think that we just need to leave it at that.
Okay. Thank you. And thank you, County Manager, for your.
Thank you, ma'am.
And can I
And-
just,
yeah.
real quick. For all the folks in the audience, nothing has changed, but what you heard here today, and I'm sure it's going to be in the paper tomorrow, because John's sitting right there, okay, that the county is standing by the letter of objection. And I think the mayor's quotes are very, very impactful, and I think that it makes it clear that that's why the city hasn't moved forward. Because they're understanding, just like I said earlier, we had a similar thing happen in Smyrna. And with all 5 commissioners initially signing the letter, they did not proceed with the annexation.
Thank you, and thank you all for being here. Now we'll move to DOT under regular. Erica?
Good morning. We have 4 items for consideration this morning, and the first item is going to be to request that the Board of Commissioners approve Amendment Number 1 to the Cobb Framework Agreement with the City of Marietta for Kennesaw Mountain pedestrian improvements.
Okay, Commissioner Gambrill?
So moved.
Call question. Motion carries 4-0.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Our second item is to request that the Board of Commissioners approve a contract with C.W. Matthews Contracting Company, Inc. in an amount not to exceed $3,384,403.19 for construction of I-20 eastbound ramps at Riverside Parkway.
Commissioner Cupid?
So moved.
Call the question. Motion carries 4-0.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Our next item is to request that the Board of Commissioners approve a contract with Paulette Tucker Enterprises, Inc., DBA Tucker Grading and Hauling, in an amount not to exceed $274,055 for the demolition of 27 buildings located at Turnberry Lane Townhomes on Windy Hill Road, Terrell Mill Road Connector, Phase 2.
Commissioner Ott?
Motion to approve.
Second. Call the question. Motion carries 4-0.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. And our last item is to request that the Board of Commissioners approve a previously approved action approving a construction agreement with Norfolk Southern Railway Company and approving Amendment Number 1 to the construction agreement with Norfolk Southern Railway Company for construction engineering, inspection and flagging services on Floyd Road, project number E6010. Authorize payment to Norfolk Southern Railway Company in an amount not an amount of $39,363.67 for additional construction engineering, inspection, and flagging services, and rescind approval of Amendment Number 1 to said construction agreement, and further authorize the corresponding budget transactions.
Commissioner Cupid.
So moved.
Call the question. Motion carries 4-0.
Thank you.
Okay, we've already had our second public comment. Oh, finance. Where did finance go? Oh, I'm sorry. We're back to number 28.
Yes, ma'am. So we have one item today, and this is to adopt our resolution for our TANs. But before we do, I wanted to give some background information on our TANs.
Thank you.
So last year, we borrowed $90 million for our tax anticipation notes. Our initial projections for this year, we're going to be reducing that down to $70 million. We're now down to 64 after we fine-tuned those projections and we've met with our financial advisors. So these tax anticipation notes bridge the gap between when we collect our property taxes each year, because every year we collect our property taxes at the end of the year, but we have expenses that take place throughout the year. So for the last several years, we've always borrowed TANs to bridge that gap. Now, what we do is we borrow those in late spring, early summer, and we pay them back in the fall when we receive our tax collections. So when we have these TANs, we were able to reduce those last year or this year because of the millage rate that was approved in fiscal year 18. So we increased our tax revenues, which allowed the county to restore their reserves and reduce the amount of TANs borrowing that we've had. So at the peak, we were north of 120 million, and at the lowest point, we were at 30 million, and we did those internally. So the goal is to obviously work back towards that, reducing those TANs each and every year. So we went from 90 million last year down to 64 million. So that's kind of the background of why we're doing the TANs and kind of how we got here, and also how we were able to reduce the amount. I do have some good news related to the TANs. As a part of the TANs process, we always have to get our ratings from the rating agencies in New York. So during that process, we'll get a final press release today. The indications that we will receive AAA ratings from the rating agencies are positive. We're going to get those later today, and we'll provide those to Ross Cabot to put out a press release. But the early indications is that we'll have AAA ratings. But one of the most important things to go along with this is last year, Moody's, one of the rating agencies, gave us a negative outlook. That outlook has been changed to stable, which is where it needs to be. So that's where we want to be. That was the first year that we received a negative outlook, and because of the actions that took place last summer, we were able to improve that. Now, they're usually, I won't say quick to give it, but they're not very quick to restore it. So the fact that we're able to restore it within 1 year is a tremendous accomplishment.
Yes.
Any further questions before I go on to the
Does
recommendation?
anybody have any questions on the agenda? Yeah, that's.
I appreciate you taking the time to explain that. And it's very difficult when we have to get into a situation where we are discussing a millage increase. But through that action taken last year, it's reducing our borrowing of the TANs, and it's also putting us in a more favorable position. So again, I really appreciate your background on that.
Sure, thank you.
Yeah, very good job.
Okay.
And also the savings on the interest.
Yes,
That's
ma'am, and that, thank
positive
you. I
news.
did not cover that here, but I know we've talked about that. So by reducing the borrowing, we're able to save the county money, because we do have to pay interest on this borrowing. So we're looking at anywhere from $200,000 to $300,000 of savings if we had the same interest rates that we had last year, from going from 90 to 64. So it is saving the county dollars, which is a huge win. Okay,
Thank
now I
you, Bill.
apologize for this recommendation, but I do have to read it all because bond counsel will not let me out of here if I don't. So bear with me. We're recommending that the Board of Commissioners adopt and approve a TANs resolution pertaining to the issuance of the 2019 TANs, which among other matters includes the following stipulations. Authorizes the issuance and sale of the $64 million in an aggregate principal amount of Cobb County, Georgia General Obligation Tax Anticipation Notes, Series 2019, and establishes a maturity date, payment terms, and not to exceed interest rate for the 2019 TANs. Approves the notice of sale and the preliminary official statement in substantially the form attached to the TANs resolution, delegates to the county manager and/or the finance director comptroller of the county acting on behalf of the county the authority to accept the lowest confirming bid for the purchase of the 2019 TANs from and award the sale of the 2019 TANs to the lowest responsive bidder and authorize the chairman and certain other officers of the county to take all necessary or appropriate actions and to execute all documents necessary or appropriate to accomplish the foregoing.
Okay, and any other discussion? Okay, I will make a motion to approve the TANs for 2019.
Thank you, ma'am.
Call question. Motion carries 4-0.
Thank you very much.
Okay, now our favorite part, Commissioner's Public Address. I'm going to start at the end to my left. Commissioner Cupid, would you like to?
Thank you. Just a couple of announcements. I will be holding in conjunction with the Georgia Vocational Rehabilitation Agency and Team 26, a job readiness workshop for veterans with disabilities. That will be held at the Riverside Epicenter. Again, that's on Wednesday and Thursday, June 26th and 27th from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. To register, please feel free to email my office and we will help you get on the list as space is limited. Also, I'll be holding my next town hall meeting at the Windy Hill Community Center on Thursday, June 27th at 7 p.m. Thank you.
Commissioner Gamble?
Thank you. And I'd like to remind everyone that tonight I'm having my first town hall meeting at the,
You need some support?
no, I've got this. At the St. Clair of Assisi's Catholic Church, and that's located at 6301 Cedar Crest Road in Ackworth. And then also Sorba is having a work day at Lost Mountain Park on Tuesday, June 18th, which will begin at 5 p.m. for anyone who is interested in helping maintain the trails out there. And then one last announcement is, I know we're into our tax assessments. The Cobb County Tax Assessor's Office has a new website which features allowing taxpayers to have access to data that can provide information that will answer many of the residents' questions and concerns. You can find this information on our Cobb County Government YouTube channel, where Deputy Chief Appraiser Sean Kelly gives a tour of the new website. So you can visit cobbassessors.org to find that information. Thank you.
Commissioner Wright?
Thank you. Got a few here. Took some notes from you. First thing, this past Friday, I had a great opportunity with Missy Owens and Justin from the zone. We met with some 4-H'ers. They were doing a lock-in. We gave their parents a tour of the Cope House. A lot of open eyes about that. And we have another opportunity. I know it's on here somewhere. Well, there's another opportunity at the Cope House. You can check my website. The other next bit of news is for Vinings. There's been a lot of talk about the traffic project. Some refer to it as the Vinings bypass. That construction started on June 3rd. We have a map that was in the newsletter, and it just kind of tells folks. And what that's going to do is hopefully get folks to bypass around Vinings instead of clogging up the intersection at Paces Ferry and Paces Mill. So like I said, that construction started on the 3rd and will be ongoing to follow on the webpage. We have also online, and Jason, just nod your head. I thought that someone said that it had been pulled, but the initial final plan for the Josh study is online, correct? Yes, okay. So for those not familiar, Josh is Johnson Ferry's Shalford master plan that the community and the county has worked on the last year. The initial final report is available online for comment. And for the folks that are looking at that, yes, it is a final report, but it is by no means final. The whole reason for it being online is for the community to be able to comment. Changes can and will be made based on the comments that we receive. So please go online and take a look at us and let us know what you think. Have a whole lot of stuff going on at Sewell Mill Library and Cultural Center. I'm just going to kind of go through, and we have Out of the World Camp, June 3rd through the 7th and the 24th through the 28th. We have Stories of the Stars, June 10th through the 14th and July 8th through the 12th. To Infinity and Beyond Camp, you see a trend here. That's June 17th to the 21st and July 15th through 19th. This is not for kids. It's the Spooky Night of Shakespeare. So we have things over there for both kids and adults. There's a rock and roll chess camp, and there's a whole series of astronomy summer camps and specialty camps and adult classes. And then we have the reading corner at Zaxby's, which is right across the street. Join a librarian for stories. And my final thing, Willie Tanks, please come forward. You thought you were going to get away with it. Not going to happen. So why don't you tell everyone what's happening this Friday? And unfortunately, I'm going to be out of town, but at the Sewell Mill Library. This is the final event at the Sewell, not the final, but the big event at the Sewell Mill Library on Friday.
You know, I wish I would have went to Toastmasters class because you have put me on a spot, unprepared, but I will answer your question.
Well, don't worry, Leanne's watching.
I'm honored to say the very first wedding at that beautiful facility, Sewell Mill Library and Culture Arts Centers, will be
And
my
whose
wedding.
Whose wedding would that be?
My wedding, Friday, June the 14th. And thank you for the recognition of the event. And we're going to be glad to be the inaugural wedding. And we hope many more people will look at that facility. It's an awesome facility. It's made for special events like that. I don't think you can find a better place. And so I'm glad to be the first wedding.
Well, I want to extend best wishes to you and Leanne.
Thank you, sir.
That's all I have.
Congratulations, Willie. Mr. Hozak, I think you have a couple announcements before I do my lengthy announcements.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Madam Vice. I did want to, and I don't think he's in the audience, and it's probably good that he's not because he's a lot bigger than I am. But I wanted to wish Jimmy Giese, our Parks Director, a happy birthday today. It flew under the radar, and he probably didn't realize we knew it, but it's his birthday today, and congrats, Jimmy. It's not often you turn 60. Teasing. Second thing, Commissioner Burrow, I did want to thank you for giving me an opportunity to mention this. About a year and a half ago, I had the honor to work on a committee to form a scholarship at KSU in the Masters of Public Administration program that is named for and will benefit students in that particular discipline. But it is named for Mr. Hankerson and his lovely bride, Janet, Janet and David Hankerson Scholarship. We were very successful in raising the money necessary to establish the endowment. I think it's very befitting that a man like Mr. Hankerson, who actually, we have 5 or 6 graduates from that MPA program that are now in key leadership positions in the county. So I think it's befitting that we did establish that endowment. As a follow-up and a thank you to the folks that helped us establish that endowment, we're going to be doing a reception, and both Mr. Hankerson and Janet will be there to greet their guests. We're going to do that on Sunday, June 23rd. It's going to be between 2 p.m. and 4 p.m. It'll be at KSU's Center for Continuing Education at 333 Busby Drive in Suite 400. And the attire for the day is business casual, but there's more information that you can obtain if you were to contact Commissioner Burrow's assistant, Inger. But we're pleased to be moving forward with this. And although it's not on my script, Commissioner, I did want to thank you for your assistance. I don't think we would have established this endowment unless you had responded to my ask for help.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
And also, the very first scholarship recipient will be there and accept the donation. So it's going to be a nice event. And you do need to RSVP to Inger if you would like to attend. Okay. So I'd first like to say thank you to the Friends of Camp McDonald, Cobb County Parks and Rec staff, and Mr. Michael Schaefer from KSU for allowing me to be at the marker sign unveiling at Camp McDonald. It's a Civil War marker, and this park, which is a county park that I just found out about, is served as a home for several thousand Civil War soldiers at various times during the first 3 years of the war. So thank you for a wet and soggy day on Saturday, but it was a great event. Also, a big thank you to the Northeast Cobb Business Association for our 5th annual 5K9 race on Saturday. Thanks to our state GBI director, Vic Reynolds, Chairman Boyce, Frank Wigington, and Director Mike Register, and several police officers and command staff that attended and were part of the race. The Swift Justice team is the DA's office team, and they're usually the winners. I think Jesse took home a trophy, Jesse Evans. So the proceeds from this race will benefit the district attorney's office with a therapy comfort dog for elder abuse victims and child abuse victims. So we thank you for raising money for that valuable cause. Now for the Superior Pets for Patriotic Vets. The Cobb County Animal Shelter has been busy. 4 pets were adopted in the last week. So we have Mr. Allen, which is the Black Lab mix here. Mr. Allen served in the U.S. Navy for 22 years, and he adopted Brady, who's an 8-month-old lab. Also, Miss Chapman, who also served in the Navy for 8 years, adopted a handsome 3-year-old kitty. Mr. Gonzalez, a 4-year veteran of the U.S. Air Force, Miss Gonzalez, sorry, gave a forever home to Mimi, who is a 7-year-old FIV positive cat who may have a tough time who would have had a tough time getting a forever home. So thank you for that. And last but not least, Mr. and Mrs. Fields adopted an 8-month-old Shiba Inu mix. Mr. Fields served 6 years in the Marine Corps. With these adoptions, we are up to 93 pets who now have a forever home with a veteran. And thank you to our sponsor, Superior Plumbing, and to Cobb County Animal Services for your assistance in this program as well. This Saturday, June 15th, Cobb County Animal Services is hosting a Fast and Fury 5K. It will be held at the animal shelter on Al Bishop Drive, Saturday, June 15th at 8 a.m. You can register at runsignup.com or active.com, and there's some flyers on the back table to support this, our Cobb County Animal Services. And then last but not least, we are taking Coffee with Your Cop to a new level. Officer Natalie Jegg, who's our Community Relations Officer for Precinct 4, and I are hosting Soda with Your Cop, Soda Pop with Your Cop, because it's going to be too hot on June 27th for coffee, and Fish with Your Commish. Ebenezer Park at 4055 Ebenezer Road is District 3's newest park, and we will be having refreshments, sodas, and conversation and fishing. So there's a beautiful lake there. There are fish in there, and be sure to bring your fishing license and your fishing pole, and we're going to have a great afternoon, June 27th from 3 to 5. And also this Friday, June 14th, besides William Tanks's wedding is also Flag Day. So for all you patriots out there, remember Flag Day. Thank you.
Hey, Joanne.
Anything?
Just one last thing. I
I'm
noticed my
sorry.
intern is sitting at the back of the room. I'd just like to introduce him for staff and the public to see. If you don't mind joining us, Mr. Adams up here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. You know, it's biblical that it's better to be called up to the front of the room than be told to go to the back. So I'm happy that I saw you before the meeting adjourned, but if you don't mind just going to the mic, and that way we can get a good shot of you. And I just want to share how pleased I am to have you interning with my office. I understand you're a Marine and a father of 3, and you recently graduated from Chattahoochee Tech. And we're so glad to have you. I've seen you as a regular at District 4 meetings, and you've always expressed an interest in our community, so much so that you've actually taken Cobb 101, which only a few of our select citizens have had the opportunity to participate in. So I'm grateful that you're here. You've just hit the ground running with your help of events, including our Veterans Career Readiness Workshop that's coming up. And so I just wanted to take time to honor you in front of everyone and hope that we have a great summer working together.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I have to say, Commissioner Cupid, in your newsletter, you had his resume, and a very impressive resume. And welcome, and we're glad to have you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, John. Appreciate you.
Commissioner Cupid, you going to mention
you-
what this weekend is?
Oh, Juneteenth?
Oh, yes, thank you. How did
Juneteenth.
we forget? Yes, thank you. For all of us, we're celebrating Juneteenth as we annually do on Marietta Square in support of NAACP here in Cobb County, and in remembrance of that holiday where it was announced that slaves were emancipated here, and they have a wonderful celebration. I think it's a 3-day celebration now.
Yeah.
So please feel free. Saturday is the big event where you have the vendors on the square, but I believe they have something Friday evening and Sunday as well. I think it's Gospel in the Park. Thank you for that reminder, Commissioner.
Yeah. I meant to do that. Do you have anything you'd like to say, John?
No, ma'am, just thank you. I'm glad I can be a part of it. And thank you, Commissioner Cupid, for picking me on your staff. It's something I did want to do is learn more and be a part of the community more. So thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
Thank you. And I think we have an update on the water issue at South Cobb.
Yep, thank you, Commissioner. The Cobb County Marietta Water Authority has put out a boil water advisory for parts of their system. Steve McCullers, our water director who spoke earlier, he's gone back to the office to try to define the area that will be affected in the Cobb County water system. We know it's going to affect a lot of people and restaurants and that sort of thing. So as soon as we get that area defined that's affected by this, we'll put out all the information we can as soon as possible. Cassie Moslem's here with me. She's going to work on that as well, getting the word out. And we believe it's going to be part of the South Cobb area, kind of concentrated around Factory Shoals in parts of Smyrna as well. Smyrna has put out a advisory for their citizenry as well. So there'll be a boil water advisory in effect for parts of Cobb County until testing shows the water safe.
Yes. I know we're putting out things, social media and electronically, but I mean, how do we reach that person that just cannot access communication in that format?
Well, all we do is we try to spread it as much as we can through those social media platforms, hoping that people will go check on their neighbors. And I know the water system has, so Steve, he's left to go back to the system. I know they also have a system in place to do some of that as well.
And I'm working with public health now to make sure that we're able to notify any dialysis centers, hospitals.
Exactly. I'm concerned about daycares right now. and
Everything.
all.
So we're just hoping that we can narrow that area down so we can be more specific with what we need.
Yeah, I think the good news is, Steve said as he left, that their tests, their figures show they didn't completely lose pressure in their system. So he doesn't believe, this is certainly abundance of caution situation. But he's zipped back. They're going to define an area for us here real soon.
Yeah, I mean, boil water advisory versus water pressure. I mean, I'm having.
Well, no, what
difficulty
happened was it was a
reconciling
break
the
in the line, and so the break in the line caused a drop in the pressure, which then, I mean, I had this conversation at like 6:45 this morning. And so what happens was a drop in pressure, so the water was not flowing through the system, and so it allows possibly sedimentation and stuff to get into the pipes.
Okay.
And so then as the break was blocked off and the pressure started returning. So it's just, that's why they have to kind of determine the area, because not all the areas, but for example, like Home Depot headquarters, they have 10,000 employees and they did not have water. So that's what we're working on.
Right, and this is a Cobb County Marietta Water Authority line that broke, not one of ours.
Right.
So we're dealing with that situation as well.
You also put out, once the map in the defined area is addressed, can you put that and send it out to the Cobb line, not just the districts that are affected? So
Yeah,
that,
will do.
I mean, there may be somebody in another district who has a relative or a friend in the area that's affected and could call them or, you know,
Yeah,
look out
absolutely.
for
We'll
them.
put it out in all the newsletters, lists.
Yeah, for people to notify their neighbors, not just.
Yes, ma'am.
receive
And we've also
information.
made sure that 911 has a list of the questions that people commonly ask and the answers that they need to be provided with. So we'll make sure that anything that can help each department get through this, if they have any calls, that they'll have that readily available.
Okay, thank
Okay,
you.
and to
for-
our assistants too, if they can get that. as
Okay,
we're getting calls.
we can do that.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, we're adjourned.